Today, we are moving into that end of year planning for 2023. How do you make sure that you are getting the most out of 2023 in your business, the way you want it, the way that it works for you? Because most of us are in business as solopreneurs, maybe as larger businesses, but to not only help people and do good work, but also to make some money for ourselves and our families and to have some kind of control over our life. Maybe the wrong word, right? But have that flexibility, have that meaningful purpose in what we do, but also have that flexibility. So let's make sure that we actually have that in our business and don't pressure ourselves into creating something that really doesn't work for us, right? So we're going to talk about that in terms of marketing today. And this was brought on because I did a little survey trying to get some ideas of what people are struggling with in their business. What can we help you with on our side? And over and over and over again in the responses, not so much what people were saying, but the way they were saying it. Like, I feel like I should be doing more of this. I should do that. I need to do more of this, and a lot of it's around posting more on social media or being on more platforms or, right? There's so many things that we feel like we should do to be successful. And I would argue that one, maybe that's not true, but two, that definitely gets in our way of doing whatever we do choose to do most productively. Right? When you've got this little should over here on your shoulder saying, are you doing enough? Are you doing that? Are you? It's just not helpful. So I sat down and I put together this little process for our Career Industry Authority group. We went through it a little bit in November. We're going to go through it again. And how can we put together a marketing strategy? It's not so much strategies, more tactics, right? But when you think about what do you want to do into 2023 to consistently build your visibility? Now, here's the one thing that we know: consistency matters. So no matter what you choose, the consistency and some kind of structure that you do it with matters. So we'll talk about options today and how we can put things together. And just remember, our whole goal is to choose something that we can do consistently and then to put a structure, process, perhaps automation around it so that we can do it well over and over and over again. That's how businesses succeed, right? That's how businesses succeed. Businesses succeed, is that you find something you can do consistently and with an opportunity to do it in a way that connects with your audience. So we're not going to talk too much about that kind of big strategy piece today. Pieces of that we need to have in place. Obviously, what services do you offer? Who is your main target audience? And what are the challenges or problems, kind of where those two things come together, right? The services are your strengths. I call it, your credible content, and then your audience's needs. Where do those two things overlap? That's the sweet spot. That's the place where you're going to want to build those services that really match people's needs, that meet them where they're at, even though you may have these services that kind of come alongside and add on to what they know they need. We first have to connect with what our audience knows they need. And if you're sitting down and trying to refine, say the number one place that I find most people struggle is that they really don't have a good idea of who their target audience is. Not just, what industries are they in and those things, that's important, but what do they really care about? What topics connect with them? Who are they demographically and psychographically? And when you really dive into that, then all of these other things that we talk about will be a little bit easier. Today, I'm going to talk about thinking in terms of your marketing tactics aligned with your strengths. And we're not going to talk about strengths finder strengths. That's at a whole deeper level, which I will talk about at some point in a class, but not today. Today, we're going to really talk more about the tactics, because this is what people are struggling with. What should I do for my marketing? And how do I do it in a way that it feels like it's enough, right? It's enough and I can do it consistently. So let's start with thinking about what you do well. And when I talk about strengths, I talk about things that you do well that also give you energy. So writing is a skill for me. I'm good at writing. Writing resumes forever, right? But it's not a strength for me. It doesn't make me sing. It doesn't come easily, especially when I'm talking about marketing, writing a blog or writing articles. That's just actually not where I love to live. Writing resumes, yes, I could do that, but the other writing parts, it's not a strength for me. It's a skill, but it's not a strength. It's not something I do easily. It comes easily. I do well. Now, there's some mindset issues there that we'll work on. However, if we're talking about marketing in a way that fits for me, it's just not where I want to start, right? It's not where I want to start. So what are the other options for me, for you, right? We've got writing, we've got relationship building or relationship maintaining, we've got video, you've got audio with podcasts, you've got visuals. You love to create or direct other people in creating visuals. Those are all of the marketing mechanisms that you can use to build your audience. And you may have others. If you can think of others, drop them in the chat. Love to see where you're joining us from and what you think about this. So drop those in the chat. Hi, it's good to see you, RM. Thank you. Oh, it's so good to see you. It's late there in Turkey. Thank you for joining us. So you want to think about what really comes easily for you. Believe it or not, video comes easily for me, right? It's something about my presenting and teaching background that video comes fairly easy for me after you get past some of the mindset junk. So choose what works for you, and that's your starting place. It may not be the end all be all because we'll talk a little bit about what you want to do from there, but that's going to be your anchor. So your anchor is going to be the thing that comes easily for you. Is it writing? Is it video? Is it audio? Is it visuals? What is it that comes easily for you? That's where you want to set your anchor. That's what you're going to start your marketing strategy with, your marketing tactics, if you will. Now, the content, remember the content is where that combination of my credible content, my credible, what I stand for, and what my audience wants to hear about. That's the content piece, but we're talking about how do you get it out there and feel good about it. So once you've decided on kind of your anchor, what is it that you're going to start your content creation process with? Then we want to think about how do you want to get that out to the people that know you or that need to know you. And this is oftentimes where the shoulds come in. So if I'm going to write a blog, well, I should post it on all the social media, or I should do all these things. That's one option. But remember, there's at least 5 other different things you can do. And there's a lot of different ways to get things out there. So webinars and presentations, awesome. Okay, so that's what we think about is that's where our anchor is. That's what we want to do. You can see people being successful using webinars and presentations to run their marketing campaigns. And you'll see somebody on every marketing channel say, this is dead. Email marketing is dead. Webinars are dead. Free webinars are dead. I can tell you that I see people running very successful businesses doing almost every single marketing tactic. The thing that makes it good is one, it's their sweet spot, right? Two, it connects to their audience, although I think you can make almost every way connect to an audience. Three, they do it consistently and they do it well. They follow the best practices in whatever it is that you're talking about. So over the last few years, since we talk trends on Tuesdays, over the last few years, some of the things that we've seen shift are a shift back to email marketing. It's not too surprising when you think about the noise on social media and, Twitter, is it here? Is it going to be gone tomorrow? Facebook disappears for a day. LinkedIn kicks you out unexpectedly, right? So when we think about those things, email marketing was dead 2 years ago. Now it's going crazy. It's going fine. Same thing with webinars. Webinars were awesome before COVID, then they hit, like, this saturation point, and free webinars did take a little bit of a dip, but even then, people who were doing it well, and it was their thing, and I love that with joy. I don't know who you are, but I love that. And with the people that were doing it consistently still found it to be successful because they hone their approach, they make it the best that it can be, and they stick with it. I saw people stick with it even through that webinar glut after COVID, and they were still successful. They are very successful. It's multi-million dollar businesses that are solely built on webinars, challenges, launch, whatever that is. Email marketing, same thing. SEO, same thing. I didn't have that in my first category. So, really good at SEO in your website is also one of those options, goes along pretty well with writing. So once you've figured out kind of what's your anchor and what are you going to do, then we want to figure out, okay, how are you going to work that from kind of the inside or from the outside in? Now, I don't like the idea of a funnel, right? Because that is very pushy. I like to call it community. So you've got people in the bigger community that you have that, kind of, right, they live on, and then you've got people that take a step in for your um, one of my channel issues. They've got that opportunity to connect with you. Then you've got people that they attend one of your events or download one of your downloads. We And then, of course, you have your customers, the people that do business with you, they become your advocate and help tell the story to other people. That's the best thing to have, right? But we've got to figure out how are we going to engage people who are just getting to know us. What's that free content look like? You're seeing it right here, right? That's our live free content, is the way that we get new people in and we get them to start knowing who we are. Then they might sign up to get the weekly notices of this live event. Now we've got their email, we're connected in some way, we're consistently having some kind of communication. Then we might have a one-on-one conversation or a one-on-one email, and those are the opportunities we have to automate or whatever it might be, right? And then they might do business with us. They might sign up for a webinar like the one we have coming up on creating webinars. Or they might, sign up for a class, a program. And so they become that kind of inner part of our community. When you think about your community, you want to figure out, how do people get to know you? And this has some systematic elements to it, but it doesn't have to be social media. So Susan Critton is our teacher for the personal branding class, and she doesn't do that much social media. She's not out there on social media. And she's often said, Marie, do you still want me teaching this class? And I said, yes, because it's so important that people understand your brand. Although we have a whole class on how to build on social media, your brand is not necessarily social media, and you don't have to build your brand on social media, although it's a tool and you can use it. So here's how Susan builds her brand. She networks. She has awesome relationships with people. She gets introductions. She also has a very strategic look to her network, where she's got people that she knows in lots of different sectors, and she's really good at systematically maintaining those relationships. So if that's you, if that's your strength, use it. You have to corral it a little bit, right? You have to put some structure around it. How are you to make sure that you stay in contact with these people? How are you going to make sure you follow up systematically, have that systematic connection? And it's not hard for people when that's their strength, because it comes easily, right? It comes with that energy to do it and to do it consistently. And so building relationships with other organizations, thinking about, who are those people that I want to build relationships with? That might be your strategy if that is your strength and you're not necessarily worried about blogging and writing content and all of those things. There are some other ways you can use social media, but it doesn't have to be that heavy content creation piece if that's not your strength. And people always go, how could you get away with that in this day and age? Let me tell you, it works. I mean, her business is doing really well, and I know others that have that similar strength and similar approach whose businesses are doing really well because it works. And actually, it works just as well, if not even better, than social media content because you've got those relationships. This is what we teach in job search, right? We teach people to network so that they're the referred candidate. You can do the same thing for your business. There's a lot of different ways to do any of these things. And I just want to say you're okay. You're okay. In fact, you're awesome if this is your approach. Do it consistently, put some structure around it, have some strategy to it, and then let go of the other pieces that aren't you or that aren't you right now. That's okay. You can build there when it's time. You can build there if you want to. You could hire someone else to do those things if that's where you want to go with it. So do you, which I feel like is a cliche that people say, but they don't really do it for themselves. So how do you want to do that? Hi, Maureen. It's good to see you. Hi, Yana. It's good to see you as well. Thank you. So you're going to figure out which part of it works for you, and then how do you make it systematic? Okay. How do you make it consistent? Now, if relationship building is your gig, then you might use social media in a different way. Instead of focusing a lot on content creation, you might use social media to get engaged with people in the comments. Comment, use that relationship muscle, right? Compliment people, engage people, ask questions, get those conversations going on social media. And that's how you could use that tool. Now you're actually building your visibility a little bit broader than just that person that you're connecting with, but you're connecting with that person in the comments. And then you're building visibility because everyone else is seeing it as well. So there's opportunities to build that visibility, even if your strategy is a little bit more one to one and relationship based. How are you going to build that visibility so that new people become aware of you? You become aware of them. You can add them to your strategy, to your consistent follow up. You can also do that through research, through other ways of finding new partners and new relationships to add. And it doesn't have to be huge, but you do always want to be thinking about how are you building some kind of visibility to new people to come into your community so that then you can get connected with them deeper, have that one-on-one conversation, or even in the direct messages and in messaging, and then move them into being part of your community as a referral partner or as a client and advocate. So when you're thinking about what works for you, you figure out your main avenue. Then how is that going to look on the platforms that work for you and your clients? So where do you want to build that you can use your strengths and your clients are there? You're looking for, again, that sweet spot. So if you're great at images, it might be Instagram. If images aren't your thing, it's not Instagram, right? You can find those same people on so many other platforms or ways of connecting that you don't have to punish yourself and go somewhere where it's just not going to work for you. Find that opportunity to get the connection, right? Where you are there, you have your energy and your joy, and your clients are there as well. So once you get the visibility building going and the connections, then you want to think about how do you take that deeper. And again, here you have a lot of options. So you can do those one-to-one calls if you're that relational person, you're doing that one-to-one messaging, one-to-one call. You could do workshops. We were talking about webinars, using that as an opportunity for people to get to know you. They're going to opt in, they're going to sign up, whether it's free or paid. It's a commitment. So we want to realize that it's a little further down the funnel. It's a little deeper into your community than people think about it as. Obviously, you could use it downloads or checklists if writing and creating systems is your gig. then how can you do that in a way that people will want that content? I saw people say, oh, gated content is dead. No one wants to give you their email. Gating content works really well as long as you have built a relationship with people and they understand that when they give you that email, one, they will actually get something of value, and two, that you will be respectful with that information. And so people do have to trust you a little bit before they do that, and they have to trust that whatever they're giving their email in lieu to get will offer them value. But then people are, again, making millions of dollars on opt-in, so don't let anyone tell you that gated content is dead. It just has to have that preamble where people really understand the value that they'll get and they trust you with their information. You could use a quiz or a survey, complimentary consultations. Those are a way to get leads. Doesn't scale, so you want to be a little bit thoughtful about that. That's still an option for people, especially great as you're building your business. Lots of people new in the business do those complimentary consultations to have that way of connecting with people. Private podcasts is one of the latest trends. Petra Zink was talking about that in our career jam this year, that she does a private podcast. It's very similar to any other thing people would sign up for. They sign up and they get that private podcast. So you're thinking about how you can be systemically connected to people. I really recommend that people do some kind of newsletter via email, even if it's short. Like, I know some people do a weekly tip and it's short and it's not this huge long newsletter. Or people take their blogs and they combine them and they do a monthly where it goes out to their email. But what that allows you to do is stay top of mind for people, build that relationship. You want to ask questions in your newsletters, right? You want to engage the readers, give them an opportunity to respond. It's not just a one-way thing, so that you can have that relationship and those people that write back to you, and then you answer and you have that conversation with your community. And thinking about, especially during this time, another way to stay in touch with your community is to do some kind of holiday or end of year gift. And people do this, very high tech wise, maybe through their email list or something. And people do it very low tech, where they write cards. We've got some very organized colleagues that after they work with a client, they write that holiday card for them then, the end of year card for them then. And then at the end of year, they've got a stack, right, of cards they've written throughout the year. So they don't have to be doing that all in December or early January or Thanksgiving if you're doing the gratitude thing here in the US or Canada. It doesn't have to be all at once if you've got the system. So what do you want to do? How do you want to have that touch with your existing community as well as your prospects? How are you going to connect with them, exchange information so that you can start some kind of a conversation? And today that might be in email or it might be in messaging. And then how are you going to systematically keep that going? And doing it in that way that works for you, whether it's low tech, high touch, or social media related. How are you maintaining that relationships and the visibility for your business? So I'd recommend. I'm going to just show this visual because it really helps with thinking about what I've been talking about. But we've got this visual that walks you through your um, your strategy. And these are just like a tiny little bit of everything that we've talked about, right? Because there are so many opportunities to build awareness, so many different ways that you can do that. Then you're getting their information somehow, you're getting them connected, nurturing those connections, right? Adding value in a newsletter, in a conversation, or in your social media posts. Although social media is really more in the purple, unless you're bringing it down to a one-on-one conversation in the comments or in direct messaging to move it into that blue or red section of nurturing. And of course, this is also a place we can't fail to tell people what is the next step. Convert may be a bad word here, but what is the next step of doing business with you? And if you never tell people how to do business with you, how to get started, how to move forward, then they're not going to do business with you, right? It's you've got to tell them that this is if they're loving all of your content, this is the next step. And what does that look like? And how do you connect with them in a way that shows them this is what the next step looks like to do business with me? Yeah. And being authentic, coming from that place where, again, this is what you do, this is how it works for you, and it's how you're in service to others. Always looking for that connecting point. So I'll say that if webinars, workshops, challenges are something that you're thinking about in 2023, we have our next webinar coming up next Wednesday. Next Wednesday, we're going to spend 2 hours going from, what's that topic that will do something of value for your audience where they can walk away with something valuable because you want your workshop to have that tangible, yes, I got something out of it. We're going to walk through from there all the way through, that outline and your marketing messaging and the tech stack and the promotions, the follow up, the sale. So we're going to spend 2 hours getting your workshop or webinar skeleton created, a little bit more meat on the bones than just the skeleton, but you're going to have that plan so that you can walk away and put it into practice. So if you feel like that might be something that's in your sweet spot, that webinar or workshop, this is the opportunity to join us. Kind of giggling that it's a workshop on workshops, right? Or it's, a webinar on webinars. It's not a challenge on challenges, but we will talk about putting together a challenge because it's another trend, and it's a great way to connect with people for a longer period of time and have them really do something and put something into action. If you've never done a challenge, they're very action and do something, get something done, and you have usually an action each day or something, and it really helps people get some momentum. So we're going to be talking about how to make those successful, different ways, because I always want to give you different options. There's so many ways to be successful. You don't have to sell on the webinar, right? We'll show you how you can sell and follow up so that you can choose what fits best for you and your clients. And how can you do that in a way that works for you, from kind of low tech to way automated, and make it work for you. So if you're thinking about your 2023 marketing plan, is really figuring out what works best for you. What can you show up and do over and over and over again? Then how does that connect to your audience? What platforms make sense? What types of conversations make sense for you and your clients, your prospects? And then how are you going to connect the dots? And then once you've got your system, to just kind of breathe and let go of the other options for now. They'll always be there. They'll be, you can go back to them later. Pick one or two strategies that really are going to work for you to start with, and then figure out how you're going to make that successful. Once you do that, then you can add to it, or perhaps even have other team members that come in to help you do that. So, if you're going to do video, you can have team members that create the visuals or write the articles or do some of those things. If you write an article, you have a team member that creates the visuals, because you can then stay where you find the best fit for you and you are operating out of your strengths, and let other people do the same to create your more full marketing strategy. I look forward to talking to you again next week. Next week, we're going to talk a little bit about pricing and what does it mean to charge your worth. And maybe that isn't the best not the best phrase. So what does that mean? And how can you set it into 2023 with a successful strategy for your business and your sales? So we'll see you next week. If you have any questions or other things that you'd like me to chat about, feel free to drop me a note, send me a message, or drop it in the chat. And I will see you next week. Thank you, everyone.